Hello everyone and welcome to Up in the Air with me, Skydiver Tanner. This is episode 2. Today we are going to be discussing basically like the safety features of skydiving with the skydiving rig. Now I know a couple of you have asked questions and said it would be kind of cool to see what types of things go into the safety of skydiving. Now it's a really huge topic to get into as far as what safety stuff we do and how we try to maintain it while skydiving. But I figured I'd kind of go over mostly like the skydiving rig and the safety features built into that. But first, I'll say there's a Skydiver's Information Manual. The USPA, United States Parachutists Association, is one of the governing bodies in the US. The next obviously being the FAA. The FAA is the ultimate governing body when it comes to anything inside the air, when it comes to the United States. The USPA is not required at all drop zones, but the majority of them do go off the USPA guidelines. And so if you do plan on skydiving, I'd highly recommend finding out a USPA drop zone. It's not too hard to find. Like I said, the majority of them are USPA. So that's kind of the one thing, is they kind of govern everything as far as skydiving goes, and you do get a license, so if you want to be your own licensed skydiver, you do have to do tests and go through certain things. But the biggest part is to go over the skydiving rig. So here I have my own system. Purchased this one used for about $3,500. They're obviously not very cheap, and these are built to fit you specifically. Now, like I said, I got mine used, and I did happen to buy it from someone who is around the same build as me. But when you get a rig, obviously one of the safety things is you want it to fit snug on you. You don't want it to be super, super loose, and you don't want it to be really small either. So when you get one of these, if you were to buy it brand new, you're going to have someone measure you, who's going to make sure your torso length, basically your hip wise, your legs are all going to be measured so that this can fit nice and snug on you while you're flying. So that's kind of like one of the first things, is making sure that you have a rig that fits you while you're up in the air. Now we're going to kind of go over the actual physical features on the skydiving rig that are built-in safety features for when you are doing a skydive. The first one right here is really important to a lot of skydivers. If you are going to do a tandem skydive and you don't plan on getting your license, this is required on all tandem skydiving rigs. What this does is it's an automatic activation device, or an AAD, and will automatically deploy your reserve parachute if you are blacked out, knocked out, having some sort of medical condition during free fall. So once I reach a certain altitude, if I am blacked out or unconscious, this is going to automatically deploy my reserve parachute for me, and I won't ever have to worry about fabric not being over my head. These do get inspected. Different companies have different standards. Some of them might be every 3 years. Most of them will expire after 16 years. You do want to get it sent in, have the battery changed, have it inspected. When you go to get a reserve repack, which you have to have your reserve inspected every 6 months by a certified FAA rigger, has to be inspected and repacked. They usually check this out and make sure everything's proper and running well, as well as send it in for you if it does need a system check. So that's the first and foremost thing that's really important on these rigs. The next, as we start to move down, you got this 3-ring system here. Now I'm going to kind of play a little video up in the corner here so you can see how the 3-ring system works. Someone invented this, I can't remember how long ago, but basically you have to have the middle ring through this big ring, the little ring through the middle ring, and then it goes through to back to your cutaway line. So if I'm in free fall, or if I'm even under canopy and I have some sort of malfunction, I have this reserve handle right here. What I do is I basically pull it really fast. It pulls on these little yellow lines that you can see right here. The little line then releases this cord through the small ring. The small ring goes through the medium ring goes through the big ring, which, like I said, you could see in the animation going on right here. And that's what's going to release your main canopy from your rig. Now, On some of these rigs, what's kind of cool, like for mine, is I have something called a skyhook and an RSL, reserve static line, right here. So when I go to pull my cutaway and my main is starting to fly away, my main is going to help pull my reserve canopy out for me. So if I'm in a panic and I pull my reserve or my cutaway handle, it's going to start pulling everything out for me. Should those fail, or should I not have that system on here, I got that reserve handle. So you pull your cutaway and then you pull your reserve handle. Your reserve handle then releases a pin that allows the spring-loaded pilot chute on your reserve to shoot above your head. Now the pilot chute basically is just kind of like a small parachute, helps catch air in your free fall, which then helps pull the reserve parachute out. I am going to go over in the future how the whole system works as far as, you know, the release of the parachute and all that stuff. I'll pull it all out for you. You guys can see all the lines and maybe even do a time-lapse pack job for you guys. That way you can kind of see how it works. So yeah, right there you got the AAD, automatically deploys your parachute, your reserve parachute if you're blacked out. You got your cutaway handle that I pull in case there's some sort of malfunction while I'm in free fall or under my main canopy. Releases everything. The RSL, the skyhook help pull out the reserve. If I don't have those, I got the reserve handle right here. Pull that, releases the pin. That's my reserve come out. So that's kind of like a big thing going on right here alone. If I happen to land on a roof or if I land on the ground and it's a really strong windy day and my main parachute's pulling me backward, I can pull this little tab right here. It releases that reserve static line from my main, and I can even cut away my main. That way my main flies away instead of pulling me off a roof or blowing me back on the ground, and my reserve won't release then once that main gets blown back. So that's kind of another little cool feature about this. On these rigs, everything really, really strong webbing. All D handles, so when you go to put everything through, you want to make sure you loop it through the D handle. I will put this on so you guys can see what it looks like as I'm putting it on. But that goes through the D handle, kind of locks it in place. Like I said, everything kind of gets measured to you if you were to buy one brand new, or if you're looking for one, you want something that's measured to your type of body. So you got all that down here. You got articulation for your legs. Helps it make it a little bit more comfortable when you're flying. Plus, obviously, then the leg straps would kind of go around your legs. Again, being measured, you don't want something for too big of legs and then it's super loose on your body or super tight where you're cinched down and then you go up an octave when you speak because it's too tight around the groin area. So, going to the front of this. This is a lot going over, I know it is. But if I were to pull this up, in here you can see that I have a pin that goes through a container loop right here. Basically that pin is kind of the like bread and butter when it comes to this whole system. This closing pin basically holds my canopy in for me, but when I go to throw out my pilot chute on the bottom of this rig here, that pilot chute catches air, which then pulls the pin out, which then allows my main to come out. So this holds your canopy in while you're in free fall, but it releases your canopy when you throw out your pilot chute. So this little closing pin right here is super important when it comes to your skydiving rig. Moving up to the top up here, it's the same thing. This is where my reserve is at. So I have the same thing. I have a closing pin right here. It goes through a little tab. When I pull on the cutaway handle, this is part of the skyhook right here. So like I said, as my main is going away, my main will pull this pin out for me, which will help pull out the reserve parachute. Otherwise, if I pull on the reserve handle, that pulls this here, which then pulls the pin out and allows my reserve to shoot out. This big circle right here is basically that spring-loaded pilot chute that I was telling you about. Shoots up in the air, catches air, pulls everything out for me. Now the other thing too with this whole system is that AAD that I was talking to you about. What it has is a little tiny micro explosion charge in it. So if that AAD were to fire, basically it cuts a line down in here, burns like a line, which then makes this pin be released, and then it lets the pilot chute come out, so that way your reserve is out. So this whole little thing right here kind of does a lot going on, and like I said, it has to be packed by a certified FAA rigger. So they put a little loop through there and they stamp it with their particular mark that they get from the FAA. So it's kind of cool how all this works. A lot of safety features in this. I'm going to pause the video for a little bit here, and I will start to put this on so you guys can see what it looks like while I'm wearing it, and then I'll kind of give you a little example or show how like the cutaway and the reserve handles work. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to get this thing put on. These things usually weigh between 20 to 30 pounds. Tandem rig is about 50 to 60 pounds. But basically, I get my leg straps first. So I put my leg through there. And normally I do not wear jeans when I do this because it's not comfortable to fly. When you're wearing jeans, put leg strap through first. Pull it up over you. Make sure everything's nice and straight. And then, like I said, you got your chest strap. Chest strap goes through the D-ring. You want to make sure it goes through a specific way so that way it doesn't get loose as you go. And depending on how you're flying will depend on how tight I do this. If I do belly flight, usually I have it slightly looser so that way when I arch it gives me space. If I want to do some free flying, I'll have it a little bit tighter because I'm not arching during it. Just get everything loose and out of the way. Then you got your leg straps right here. And you're going to take these two handles and you basically pull them down. Kind of bend, pull, and you want it nice and tight because obviously you do not want to fall out of this. The other thing too is you want these to be pretty much equal with each other, equal distance. Because if you don't and you have one leg a little bit more loose than the other, it's not necessarily going to do anything during free fall, but when you go to deploy your parachute, if you're offset just a little bit, it can cause a turn when you're under canopy. You don't want that to happen. You want a nice smooth opening. Take those, basically just tuck them away down in there so that way they're not flapping and smacking you on your way down. But now you can see how everything is accessible right here. So I got my cutaway, got my reserve handle. A lot of times we'll do handle checks before we go up. You know, you want to make sure you got your altimeter on. You want to make sure that your reserve is nice and tucked away, that your cutaway reserve is nice and tucked away. I always double check that my 3 rings are all secure and in how they should be. Pull on my chest strap, make sure that that's locked. Then with my helmet, obviously I have that on. I have an altimeter inside my helmet as well. It's an audible, so that way, you know, if I'm doing some flight and I'm not paying attention to my altimeter, which altitude awareness is a huge safety thing, but it'll beep once I get to a certain altitude. That way I know, hey, it's time to get ready to cut away from everyone else and deploy my pilot chute. So that's what this looks like while it's on. A lot of tightness back here, the way it's sitting. Reserve your pilot chute right here for your main. Throw it out, catches air, pulls out your main canopy. So that is how it looks like when it's on and all the safety features with it. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm going to do a little recap, but I'll see you on the flip side. Okay, so that was a lot to go over, and I know I probably went kind of quick and maybe didn't get into it as deep as I could, but I kind of want to keep the video short because, like I said, there's a lot of safety stuff that when it comes into skydiving, and I can get on more topics later down the road, but that was basically just the whole rig system and the safety features that are built into it. So if some of you have had a little fear of skydiving, you at least now have kind of a little bit of an education on the safety that goes into it. Mind you, I am deathly afraid of heights, and that's kind of how I got started into this. My 36th birthday back 4 years ago, I decided to just face my fear. My dog's rolling around in my lap. Decided to face my fear and take that jump off an airplane. And I'll be honest, if my cousin hadn't been with, I probably would have backed out on the airplane ride up, but because he was with it, it just made it that much more like, yeah, I got to go do this. Never looked back since. I enjoy it so much. You know, if you are fearful of it, I'd say try it out. You know, it's not cheap at first, especially if you're doing a tandem, but I would do this over bungee jumping or maybe even static line. I don't know all the safety things that go into bungee jumping or static lines. I view it as like there's basically only the one thing, only the one bungee cord and only the one static line. And if those fail, what's your backup? Whereas at least with my skydiving rig, I know I have my reserve there ready to go, and I know it has to be inspected and repacked every 6 months by someone who is FAA certified. So hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Now stay tuned because I am going to show a few rockets that I have that are not made yet. And I want you guys to put in the comments below which ones, or which one, pick the one that you would like me to possibly do a time lapse of me making it. Aside from that, yeah, stay tuned, see which ones are there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification, comment, like. Dogs are playing around, so I'm sorry if it wiggled a little bit. Like I said, no editing, keeping it in. Anyways, talk to you guys soon. Alright, here are the options as far as rockets to possibly come up and make. We got the T-Lock right here. Kind of a unique little shape with the fins. We got the Nike X. It's got 3 sets of fins on there. We got this ESAM 58, some different stuff, or we kind of got a basic big dog rocket right there. So you guys tell me what you would possibly like to see a time lapse of: the T-Lock, the Nike X, the ESAM 58, or the Quest Big Dog. Let me know in the comments. The next is when I lift this flap. If you look inside here, we got a little, can't think of the damn word right now. I can't think of the word. What? Pin. Oh yeah. Hold for editing. So right here you have your container pin, safety pin. It's not even a safety pin. We hit stop for a second. Why can't I think of the